Hi everyone, it's Marie from Petty Paper Crafts and welcome back to my channel. Today I've got another 12 by 12 process video for you, and this one's called A Little Dirt Never Hurt. It's a scrapbook page about my little boy when he was quite little. He's 6 now, and it's all about when he was out in the garden with my husband, and my husband was making a raised bed for us to grow some vegetables in at our old house, and my son went out to help him. I'm not sure it was actually any help whatsoever, but he had a great time messing about in the mud. So that's where the title came from, A Little Dirt Never Hurts. The cut file is from a online shop called Cut to You, and this one actually comes with a digger. So if you look at my other process videos, you'll see where I've used that digger to create a layout called Just Keep Digging. About my son on the beach. So what I've done so far is cut that out about 11 inches across, and then I've backed it onto brown paper, a bit like the mud. So I'm going for a fairly monochromatic feel today, using lots and lots of browns. And I wasn't sure at this point what paper I was going to use as my backing paper, but I knew that I wanted a lot of the colour on there to be that lovely brown. Just to make it look really kind of dirty and mucky, I suppose. So all I'm doing now is using a pair of small scissors and my craft knife there to cut out A Little Dirt Never Hurt. I've chosen this paper as the background. It's a very light blue colour, like wooden. It's that wood grain effect. It kind of reminded me of the fence in the background of the picture, which is why I chose to use it. And all I'm doing now is using some texture paste and my palette knife to add some of this mask. Now this is a mask from Echo Park, and it's basically covered in words like explore, together, travel. I realise we're not travelling, but I liked a lot of the words. Now I know you can't see it very well there, however the next step that I'm going to do really makes those words show up on the background, and I'm really happy with how this works. So what I do here is I use some acrylic paint and I water it down. I've used a dark brown and then a reddy brown. I did also get a gold out. I decided not to use that in the end. But I mix it up until I'm happy with the colour. What I'm trying to do here is match it to the brown that I've used to back that cut file. And then I end up adding a bit more of the darker brown because I wasn't happy with it. And then what I've got here is a straw. I don't know if you remember doing this when you were little, but I did this with a class of children that I was teaching last year at some point, and basically all you do is you put really wet paint on and then use a straw and kind of blow, and it makes the paint sort of spread out in that kind of spidery fashion, and I really like the effect that this gave on my page. So I go around and I do quite a few of those, and I realise if you go from one side across, it pushes it one way obviously, but if you go right above it, it kind of makes it splay out in all directions, which I actually preferred in the end. So I do sort of, I end up with my head in the shot quite a few times as I'm leaning over to blow the paint around. Quite happy with that. I then go around and do quite a bit of splatter, which I'm really happy with, just to add that more texture in and blob some more on. But then actually I'm looking at it and I think I'm not really happy with it, so I then just go in with my paintbrush and add smooshes of colour. I might have used the packaging technique as well, but I was being quite careful as to where the paint went. I then used my spritzer there just to add a bit more water, make it a bit wetter so that the paint spread around a little bit more easily. And as I'm doing this, as I'm adding the paint on top, the words are popping out and you can just start to see them coming through there. So they make those words stand out really nicely. And I think I'm really happy with that. And then I do splatter over the top of my words as well so that they don't look perfect. And I do a little bit more of the blowing with the straw. Really happy with how that's turned out. So what I've decided to do though, because my page is it's paper, it's not cardstock, it's gone really wobbly. So I decided to use this brown cardstock. This is one of those colour core ones. And I decided to use that to just put a small frame around to give the page a little bit more stability, because it does end up, like I say, really quite wobbly. So all I'm doing there is cutting 1/4 inch off of each side, and then I've gutted that back piece, taken the middle out, so that I can use that on another layout. So now I'm just using some double-sided sticky tape to stick them together basically, and make sure that everything's adhered properly. It is a little bit wobbly, but I guess that's the price you pay for doing mixed media. There was a post on a Facebook group that I follow a little while ago that said if there was one thing you could design for scrapbooking that hadn't already been designed, what would it be? And my suggestion was a wobbly page unwobbler, because it's the one thing that I really dislike about mixed media, is the fact that the pages end up really wobbly. So what I'm doing right now is using some double-sided adhesive foam, and I'm propping up that cut file, A Little Dirt Never Hurt. I'm putting lots on because the page has texture paste on, because it's a bit wobbly. I want to make sure that it definitely isn't going to move. I want to make sure that that stays exactly where I want it. I do leave a small gap at the top because I want to be able to tuck my photographs behind that cut file. Lots of fiddling, lots of sticky bits, but it goes on and looks really effective on top of that mixed media. So that's where my photos are going to go. My next job is to back my photographs, to mat them, and I was going to trim around them, and then I thought, no, do you know what, I'm going to rip the paper. I don't rip very often, but this layout sort of calls for ripping. It needs it to be less perfect. It's all meant to be sort of muddy and messy. I like the way that looks, so then I do the other one as well and just tear around them, and it doesn't even matter if they're not perfect. That you wish you could scrap at this speed in real life, get loads more pages done. What I'm doing now then is I'm just using some of the offcuts and some of the bits of paper that I've got left on my desk from that 12 by 12 piece to add some layers behind my photographs. I am using a Kaisercraft set here. I think it's called Up, Up and Away. It's got balloons on one of the sheets of cardstock, but this one was brown on one side and then had like postcards and scripty writing on the other. So I end up using both sides of this to add those layers behind the photographs, because the lighter colour kind of matches in with the colour of the wood in the background of the raised bed, and the darker colour obviously matches in with the colour of the mud. And I think that works really well. I'll put an extra little bit down there, and then I'm just going to stick them down with more double-sided sticky. Happy with that one. And then I'll just do the same over here. I've not done them both the same. I've used the same papers on both, but I've layered them in different ways. Now all I'm doing is adding some adhesive foam to the back of each photograph, again to prop them up, give an extra bit of dimension to the page. I do like dimension on my pages. I don't like them to be flat. And when I do use this foam, I do use an awful lot of double-sided sticky just to make sure it really sticks. Again, because there's texture paste on the page, need to make sure that it's going to stick and not move. So they're just going to go in there. I'm just going to stick those two little bits together and then pop that underneath there. So now I'm going to pull out some of my ephemera. I've got some stickers here from the Lil Dude collection from Simple Stories, and I've also got my Boys Rule ephemera, that's Cocoa Vanilla Studio. And I'm just using a few of those little phrases in various places around. I do end up moving one of those. I've put a little catapult. Is it a catapult? Yes, it's catapult on there as well, just because it was the right colour and it seemed to fit, and a little dinosaur down there. Because as it turns out, my little boy, now he's a little bit older, absolutely loves hunting for fossils. And I wonder if this is where it started. He was digging around in the mud, and I wonder what he found that day. So I just thought I'd use those. Now, excuse the mess that's about to happen on the side of my desk. I've got all that I have left of my Boys Rule ephemera all in one big bag. I have those seal-up bags, Ziploc bags from IKEA, and I tend to end up putting all the bits of ephemera in one bag. So what I'm doing now is just using a couple of frames and a couple of little tags. I found some stars that work beautifully with the colour of this layout. I did put a bit of blue on there, that came off. I put a little red heart on there, that came off. I just liked the monochromatic feel of this one. I liked these little lightning bolts. They matched again with the colour. I liked that a lot. I was going to put that little Yeti guy in there, but I couldn't make him work, so he comes back off again. And I'm just going around now with my fine liner glue and sticking all the little pieces down. So as I just stick the last few of these down, I decided to have one last look through the ephemera to my side there, because I decide, actually, I love that little strip there that I've just seen. Eat, sleep, be rad, repeat. And I also liked this little bit of, it was a phrase on a bit of cardstock, and I decided to chop it up and I stick that down as well, and I decided to use a little bit of adhesive foam to pop that right in the middle on top of A Little Dirt Never Hurt, just to break up some of that brown. It is quite brown in there. What I do though is I get out my Tim Holtz Distress ink. I think it's tea stain, and I just pop a little bit with a sponge daub around the edge, and then I do run over the whole of the big title with that as well, just to soften those edges and make it look even more mucky than it already did. That's pretty much the end of my layout. Thank you ever so much for stopping by today and watching the video. If you like it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching.